In the aftermath of Wednesday's deadly house fire in Central City, there's a growing concern citywide that those furloughs may have affected the fire department's response time. The fire destroyed 2 homes and killed 1 woman in the 2600 block of South Johnson Street. Some neighbors are now worried about their safety, and as Ton Trung reports, some firefighters say the rest of the city should be too.
Wednesday's fire on South Johnson Street killed Chevelle Johnson. The cause of the fire is being investigated, but Dolores Harris suspects her neighbor's desperate situation, where she didn't have power or gas, may have been a factor.
The little pole sitting in the yard, she was running an extension cord to the house. I think that's how the fire started.
The fire was shocking enough, but Harris says what she heard from firefighters surprised her.
They say they have to come from way across town to over here because they're on furlough.
Charge it up!
COVID-19's stranglehold on the city budget is forcing every department in New Orleans, including first responders, to reduce cost through furloughs.
Putting companies out of service and making us come from further distances to respond, which takes even more time, is, hampering us more than you could imagine.
Take a look at what the fire's heat did to the house across the street. Now, the interim superintendent said the first company arrived here within 6 minutes. The firefighters union says it would have been a different situation had it not been for furloughs.
Under the cost-cutting formula, the fire department must close certain stations when staffing falls to a certain level. When the fire broke out, Engine 16, just 6 blocks away, was out of service.
It definitely could have made a difference. You're looking directly down the street. It's a straight shot to where the fire was. We're estimating probably a 2-minute response time to get to that fire.
Instead of 6.
Instead of 6. And in a job that, every second counts, 4 minutes is a huge difference that could mean life or death for anyone.
Union President Aaron Mischler says he understands the pandemic's financial pain, but the city must keep public safety a priority.
Looking through the budget and capital projects where they're spending $3 million to revitalize Lincoln Beach when people are dying in fires and crimes out of control, I think priorities need to be revisited.
And it hurts real bad to see things like this go on, And they worrying about a Mardi Gras. Nobody worrying about no Mardi Gras.
It took 55 firefighters to put this fire out Wednesday. Mischler says with furloughs, that left just 36 to cover the rest of the city. Something he says is an emergency on its own. Ton Trung, Eyewitness News.
So we asked Mayor Cantrell about Mischler's statements as well. She repeated what she said about police furloughs, that there's no data to support the idea that safety services are diminished. And in a statement today, City Communications Director Bo Tidwell added, quote, all city employees are being asked to make a shared sacrifice with these furloughs. The NOFD leadership is making every effort to ensure that these measures are implemented in such a way as to minimize the impact to public safety.